Have you ever wondered why your mom and dad laughed at SpongeBob, even when that scene wasn't really that funny? It turns out the cartoon world is full of innuendos you just never understood as a child. We can't believe the jokes that went on in Powerpuff Girls. Make sure you never miss out on one of our videos again by clicking that subscribe button. Today we're talking about 10 subtle jokes in popular kids shows that only adults will get. Hey Arnold. What? Hey Arnold had subtle jokes you didn't understand as a child? Oh, you know it. From Grandpa's face to him saying he lost quite a few brain cells since Woodstock, Hey Arnold has more subtle jokes than you can remember. Remember Helga, who named her fist the Old Betsy Helga? Who was a bossy bully that took way too long to admit she actually had a huge crush on Arnold, and it turned out it wasn't really a crush, but she loved him? Helga has always been an expressive character, but it was her subtle jokes that made adults laugh much harder than children. Not only did Helga have a shrine for Arnold and wrote surprisingly good love poems for him, but her dramatic confessions sometimes took a slightly less innocent route. In a love letter to Arnold, who she called Football Head, Helga expressed that she was so into him that it made her girlhood tremble. In Hey Arnold the movie, Helga manages to confess her love to him and corners him, which understandably makes Arnold slightly confused. After he says he feels a bit dizzy and needs to lie down, Helga dramatically suggests she should lie down with him. Do you see the subtle jokes? Freakazoid. Freakazoid was another show that had way too many jokes you just didn't understand as a child. If you're not familiar with the show, here's a quick summary. A 16-year-old high school student named Dexter Douglas got some really impressive superpowers from a computer bug when he accidentally activated the secret key sequence. He became Freakazoid, a superhuman with enhanced speed, strength, and intelligence. He can change back to a normal human by saying freak out and freak in whenever he's ready to fight enemies. One of his allies was Sergeant Mike Cosgrove, a heavyset police officer who's always kind, although very monotone. Well, Sergeant Mike Cosgrove actually gave a statement that might have gone over your head as a child, but had you giggling as an adult. In an episode called Tomb of Invisibo, Freakazoid asked Cosgrove why he never got married. Cosgrove hilariously replied that he just likes his meat too much to give it up for marriage. After Freakazoid had informed him that he can still eat a lot of meat when he's married, Cosgrove replied that he didn't know that. Do you get the hint? Why do you think Sergeant Cosgrove never got married? Rockos Modern Life. And who can forget about the wacky show about a wallaby, his dog Spunky, and his friend Filbert? Rocko's Modern Life was one of Nickelodeon's very few shows back when cartoons had no rules. This might explain the highly unusual scenarios you can find in Rocko's Modern Life. Although the show hasn't been on the air since 1996, it had many subtle jokes that went way over your head as a child. Do you remember the episode where Rocco loses his job at the comic book store and has to look for something else? He finds a very interesting ad in the newspaper that says specialty phone operator. In the next clip, it looks like he actually got the job. You can see him speaking on the phone with a note next to him that's explaining how he needs to carry out his conversations. His phone job seemed to quickly end when he finds his neighbor, Mrs. Bighead, on the other line. As a child, you probably thought Rocco had just another job, and it was nothing special, right? Well, fans of the show had to do a few double takes to discover that this was actually a very subtle joke done by the creators of the show. Can you guess what Rocco's real job actually was? Cow and Chicken. Cow and Chicken is probably one of the oddest cartoons ever shown on television. If you don't remember the show, here's what it was about. Mama had a chicken, Mama had a cow, Dad was proud, he didn't care how. That's the opening line of the show, and it makes complete sense. Cow and Chicken are apparently a sister and a brother who have human parents. On the show, their mom and dad are basically shown as just legs with human voices. Cow and Chicken would go on bizarre adventures around town together, and they had a somewhat interesting enemy called the Red Guy, who always wanted to scam them in one way or another. But did you know that Cow and Chicken had an episode that was banned from ever being aired again, after many discovered the hidden meaning behind it? It was called Buffalo Girls, and the storyline was about biker girls who would break into houses and munch on carpets. Of course, there's a hidden innuendo in that episode that you'd never understand as a child. Looking back on the show now, did you realize why it was banned and what the cartoon makers meant with Buffalo Girls munching on carpets? The Simpsons. Although the last cartoon on this list really is the one with the most subtle jokes that only adults will get, The Simpsons comes pretty close in second. The Simpsons is one of the most popular kids shows on TV, and since 2016, it is now officially the longest-running American sitcom, as well as the longest-running American animated program. But did you know that The Simpsons had many subtle jokes only adults were able to understand? The Simpsons' raunchy humor is well known, but you might want to rewatch a few episodes as an adult to truly understand them. In the episode called Black Widower, Krusty the Clown makes a suggestive joke saying, "This guy walks into a bar and takes out a tiny piano and a 12-inch pianist. Oh no, wait, I can't tell that one." Do you get it? Another suggestive episode is called Whacking Day, where Homer participates in snake whacking, which is a tradition in Springfield. In the bedroom, Homer asks Marge on some advice how he should whack the snakes, to which Marge suggests he should first start slow and then go faster. And then there's Homer's Mr. Plow jacket that Marge likes to see on her husband. Subtle or not, what's your favorite Simpsons joke? Justice League. Want to hear a joke? What is the Flash's favorite part of a joke? The punchline. Justice League was an animated series that didn't have a long run, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't awesome. Of course, it was a part of a much larger thing called DC Animated Universe. But Justice League in particular has an amazing sense of humor which ranges from normal jokes to, well, jokes that are just a little bit more subtle and might go over kids' heads. And it starts with the very first episode of the series where the Flash likes a mint green-haired Justice League member named Fire. Flash is encouraged by Shaira to go talk to Fire, but then says, "Yeah, you'd probably be wasting your time anyway. I hear she's, you know." She makes a long pause and then says, "Brazilian," which is where the character Fire is originally from. Flash laughs it off, but subtle jokes don't stop here. In an episode called Eclipsed, Flash brags about his superpowers and says that he's the fastest man alive, to which Hawkgirl cheekily replies, "Which might explain why you can't get a date." How did this joke get past the people who review kids' episodes? Johnny Bravo. Enough about you, let's talk about me, Johnny Bravo. He's the ultimate alpha male of all TV show cartoons. Johnny Bravo is a cartoon from 1997 which focuses on a buff, overconfident guy as the main character. His main mission is to ask a woman on a date. Of course, his egocentric personality gets in the way and he's often unsuccessful. But as he is Johnny Bravo, he very rarely gives up, even when he should. He calls women Foxy Mama and asks them to do the monkey with him. He thinks he's the most handsome man on the planet, and he has no reservations in asking if you want to watch his chest move in slow motion. Johnny Bravo cartoons come with many, and we mean many, jokes that probably went over your head as a child. In the very first episode, Johnny Bravo is presented as an offer of innocence to Athena and gets thrown into a volcano. A couple of seconds later, he immediately gets thrown out, suggesting he's not that innocent after all. In another episode, the kids play pin the tail on the donkey with Susie's cousin. Susie says she doesn't remember the last time she was blindfolded, but remembers the next second. Do you get these jokes? Let us know in the comments below. Ed, Ed, and Eddy. If you didn't think Cow and Chicken was a weird show, Ed, Ed, and Eddy might take that spotlight. The first episode of Ed, Ed, and Eddy aired in 1999. The show was a huge hit and had an audience of 31 million households. Both children and adults enjoyed watching Ed, Ed, and Eddy, and it was possibly because of many raunchy jokes the cartoon had. The show focused on 3 high school kids who lived in a town called Peach Creek. Eddy is the leader of the pack, and the trio always tried to come up with ways to make money. Of course, they always failed, which made for a good cartoon episode. The story very rarely included adults, and the school time was also limited, which leaves plenty of time for mischief. How about the time when Ed and Eddy crawled under Eddy's bed and found questionable magazines and plenty of tissues? Or this bathroom, which comes with some suggestive notes like, "Don't touch yourself." Eddy seemed to really love the magazines. After he complained he had to clean his room, he whispered he was totally able to save his magazines. And after he cried that his magazines are in the sewer, and Ed said the text will now be ruined. Eddy said he was more worried about the pictures. What else can you expect from a cartoon show like Ed, Ed, and Eddy? The Powerpuff Girls. Wait. Powerpuff Girls had subtle jokes you didn't understand as a kid? Oh yes. The show first aired in 1998, and it followed the lives of 3 little girls with superpowers: Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. They lived in a city called Townsville and used their superpowers to save the city from evil. Did you know that Buttercup's original name was Bud, but the creator changed it because Blossom, Bubbles, and Bud just didn't sound that good? Their names aren't even the same in countries around the world. Italy calls them Lolly, Dolly, and Molly, and in Latin America they were Chocolate, Bubble, and Acorn. But no matter what their name was, Powerpuff Girls were funny, and some of their jokes were a little too subtle for a child to understand. Remember when the Powerpuff Girls made a new friend and introduced her to the professor? Professor said he made the Powerpuff Girls in a lab by accident, and Robin replied that she was an accident too. Or the time when the Powerpuff Girls defeated the Rowdy Rough Boys, and Blossom added this comment: "Whenever their masculinity is threatened, they shrink in size." Or perhaps this suggestive scene that, no, let's just move on to the next cartoon. Can you guess what the final cartoon on our list is? Spongebob Squarepants. If you guessed Spongebob Squarepants, you get 1,000 points. Give this video a thumbs up if you love SpongeBob. Did you know that SpongeBob was actually created by Steve Hillenburg, a marine biologist and a science teacher who also worked as a fry cook at a seafood restaurant? We can definitely see where the inspiration behind SpongeBob came from. And the reason why SpongeBob lives in a pineapple is that Steve thought he'd like the smell, as it is very important to sea animals. SpongeBob is popular with children as well as adults, and you wouldn't believe how many subtle jokes you can find in this show. Like the episode where SpongeBob was making balloons for Squidward, but those balloons didn't seem like they were regular balloons. And why is Patrick shown without any clothes while offering SpongeBob some sea money? SpongeBob SquarePants really has some clever ways to make the adults laugh, like the time that SpongeBob finally admitted he was ugly and proud, and shouted it so that everyone could hear them, including Squidward, who said, "Is that what he calls it?" Rewatch SpongeBob as an adult and we can guarantee it will make you laugh even more. What's your favorite moment in a cartoon show? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. For more entertaining videos, check out 10 amazing houses inspired by your favorite cartoons. See you next time. Bye-bye.